Hello everyone, here is the third Battleground in the third wave of Forbidden Battlegrounds, and this one requires a Glory and Empire clear. Glory is another faction that I'm pretty strong in, so the Glory challenge is mostly trivial to me, and you can see me bringing in a lot of my protagonist friends over to this fight as well, so much so that I still bring over Matthew's faction buff. Even though Grineer could buff everyone, the extra damage from Matthew's faction buff is still appreciated. It's not like there's anything else I could really run on him in place of it. The only other attack that Flyer Matthew has is Snipe, which obviously doesn't really work that well with melee troops. And of course I am bringing Narm, the best fly swatter in this game. Her most important job will be to one-shot that stupid Gargoyle that heal blocks people. Technically I could have done it right at the beginning of the map, but that would leave me in range of all those enemies on the right side of the map, so I really didn't want to do that. So instead Narm goes ahead and does that here. Now you can see that I'm using a Crystal Stinger Dagger on Narm. Depending on your enchants, this really isn't necessary. Although I do suggest to take advantage of Matthew's attack command, like I am here. So on this turn, where I decide to end my characters at is actually very important. There's a lot of deadly attacks coming my way this turn, but the most dangerous ones are the ones coming from the bottom left group, and that includes the Mage, who is going to cast Dark Reaper, and the Minotaur, who casts Rout. Now Rout itself isn't that scary, but the Minotaur is an infantry unit and has really high attack, so he would easily one-shot Grineer, even if I didn't have to take like 3 other attacks during this enemy phase. To deal with the Dark Reaper, I leave Matthew out as bait. Matthew has Angels, so those do most of the tanking for him. I also made sure to top off his HP so that his last rites is intact during this hit. I do think it's possible to survive this without last rites, but it's nice to have that guarantee. So this next turn is actually going to be very key as well, because there's just way too many enemies around. I need to make sure to take out a good number of them so that Grineer can handle tanking this enemy phase. After healing up, I use Narm to weaken the Minotaur a little bit, and I follow up with Matthew. Sometimes this is enough to kill him, but this isn't always the case depending on crits and whatnot. So one problem is that I still have the Undead Knight to deal with, and Grineer isn't going to be able to survive multiple hits during this enemy phase. So first I use Grineer to attack the Mage to make sure I don't have to take a hit with full HP sorceresses. And then after that I use Chris to take out 2 enemies by attacking the Undead Knight first. After killing it, Chris activates her exclusive helm, which allows her to act again after killing a demon enemy, so that she can double back and finish off the Minotaur. And while doing this, she's also healing up Grineer quite a bit, which is going to be necessary since the sorceress is going to attack Grineer, and even with broken swords, she's going to deal a sizable amount of damage to Grineer since Grineer's M defense is pretty bad. But with that out of the way, the rest of this map is pretty simple. There's only 3 enemies left and I have 5 units. I just need to take my time and kill them one by one. Overall, a pretty straightforward fight for the Glory faction, which is still one of the strongest PvE factions. But it's not going to be as simple for me when I do this using Empire, which is a less developed faction for me, so stay tuned for that. So as I mentioned, my Empire team is a lot less developed than my Glory team, and in general Empire does have some trouble finding good characters in the SR and R characters. So I'm gonna need to employ some cheese strats if I want to get past this. So I brought Hein and Iris along. Iris teleports Hein a bit to the right, and then Hein teleports himself even further to the right. As you might imagine, this is so Hein can lead these guys around, and he's gonna have no problem doing that with the enemies that are chasing him. Not only because most of them are infantry movement, so Hein can just stay ahead of them, but the one that can move more, which is the Undead Knight, not only can Hein tank him pretty easily using Shrine Maidens, but the bottom right of the map is just a bunch of forests, so the guy can't catch up to Hein anyway. So with Hein distracting most of that group of enemies, I'm going to have a much easier time taking out the rest with my main party. So I have brought Lance here to buff the team, and that's pretty much the only reason he's here. He's just a glorified faction buff. Now there are a decent number of cav and flowery enemies on this map for Lance to activate his talent against, at least. The one problem is that my Lance here does not have a heart bond, and that's because I kind of built him quickly to do this challenge, and I actually ran out of bond seed purchases in my guild shop, so I just kind of went whatever, I'll just use them anyway. So as a result, you can see that Lance's HP here is really bad, but at the very least I have his attack bond unlocked, and combining that with a Judge Talisman means that Lance can at least do decent damage to the cav, flyers, and the healer. And even when he's not doing that, I have brought Defense Intimidate on him, so at least he can support the real DPSs here, which are Sonya, and actually Vargas as well. Vargas is going to be dealing a pretty decent bit of counter damage to all these enemies, and Vargas is just a really hardy tank, so he's going to be able to eat a lot of these hits without any problem. The only exception of course being the Minotaur, who is going to come in here and take away his first life. Not a big deal, that's what the revive is there for. A combination attack from Lance plus Sonya's 3 cost is enough to take him down, and after that the map is pretty straightforward. Now I'm sure most of you who are using SSR characters probably already beat this map pretty easily, but if you're still struggling, maybe you can try bringing Hein like I did, and just using him as a distraction for whichever group of enemies you find most problematic. Now in this video I used him to bait the right side enemies, but you could also use him to bait the bottom left side, which of course is the Sorceress and the Minotaur, by teleporting him to a different spot. Otherwise, just like a lot of these other Forbidden Battleground fights, once you split these enemies into manageable chunks, they're really easy to deal with. The rest of this video is just going to be me playing probably overly cautiously. If I had units like Ares and Elwyn at my disposal here, obviously I would be able to beat this map much faster. So I don't think this map is going to be a problem for most of you. So just take this video as what it is, sort of a proof that you can still beat it if you only use SRE characters. So enjoy the rest of the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.
せのままに。はっはっ任せろ。はっ
アイリス頑張るからね。ヤンパール出撃。
仰せのままに。はっ任せろ。甘いんだよ。
はい。
仰せのままに。
アイリス
はっ
頑張るからね。アイリスいくよ
仰せのまま。
頑張